Grand evening, everyone. It is Monday, August 18th, 22:30 hours in the evening, Central Standard Time. And we have a couple of things to talk about today. It's definitely not a code black, though there was a major White House meeting today with President Trump and the other European leaders, many of them, which most are in NATO, and they came to talk about security guarantees for Ukraine. So President Trump and the European leaders, which are pretty much all of them are part of NATO, they came to an agreement about security guarantees, and President Zelensky was even there, the president of Ukraine, and they had some kind of agreement. So let's get into that here. We'll start with all that. Start with what the UK Prime Minister Starmer said.
Yeah, well, today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. And we had two material outcomes. The first, on the question of security guarantees, was the agreement that the coalition of willing countries, that's 30 countries already working together on security guarantees, will now work with the US on those guarantees, coordinating. The other material outcome was the agreement that will now be a bilateral agreement between President Putin and President Zelensky. That was after a phone call between President Trump and President Putin during the course of this afternoon, followed by a trilateral, which will then add in President Trump. And that is a recognition of the principle that on some of these issues, whether it's territory or the exchange of prisoners, or the very serious issue of the return of the children, that is something where Ukraine must be at the table. And so these were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today. Thank you very much.
So they did come to a major agreement. About 30 countries did when it came to Ukraine and the security guarantees. That's absolutely huge news that they did do that. They did come to major agreement. Let's see what else we have here. I saw this written here earlier. So they had discussions focusing on security guarantees for Ukraine rather than territorial swaps. President Zelensky said, "It is important for the United States to send signals that it will help. This is a huge step forward." The meeting included plans for Ukraine to purchase $90 billion in U.S. military equipment through European allies, while America would buy Ukrainian drones once exports begin. So Ukraine is planning to buy $90 billion of U.S. military equipment, some reason through European allies. That's a lot of U.S. military equipment. Hopefully that doesn't take too much from the American stockpile. There's not much left in there. We've used a lot of munitions and ammunition, same kind of thing. All of that has been sent, almost all of it. There's so much of the U.S. military equipment has been sent to Ukraine. Now Ukraine is going to buy another $90 billion worth of it. So that's interesting. We'll see how that goes, how quickly they get that military equipment, or if we need to build more and then send it to them. They're probably expecting it right away. French President Macron said, "We are going to need to help Ukraine with boots on the ground to make sure that there is no intrusion from Russia in the future." Trump suggested direct talks between Putin and Zelensky as the next step, though Moscow made no mention of such participation. Zelensky concluded, "Unacceptable decisions were not made. I think that every one of us has done the job." Wow. Absolutely. War hawk. Very hawkish from French President Macron, saying we're going to need to help Ukraine with boots on the ground. So the French may be putting, it's a very high possibility now that France is going to put their troops and some of their military into Ukraine, thinking that's a good idea, and it'll prevent Russia from intruding, as he said, meaning invading Ukraine. That's actually very concerning. That's huge. That's very, very concerning. So, with French troops in Ukraine, that could result in Russians bombing or firing at French troops, and that's how the rest of NATO gets pulled in, because the French trying to stop the Russians from advancing. That's a very risky, very dangerous situation. We'll see if France does it. That's huge. That's historic if they do that. That'll cause an absolute total escalation into the more kinetic phase of World War III. We also have, we'll get into this now, the hurricane. I've been watching it closely recently. So this is Hurricane Erin here, just east of Nassau, the Bahamas, and it is a massive hurricane. I believe it's category 4 now. It's a massive hurricane. I believe those winds are, let's see, still over 70 miles an hour. I'm not very familiar with this website, windy.com, though this is a massive hurricane, and they expect it to move more to the northwest. It's going to go to the coast of the Carolinas, and then they're saying it's going to go more to the northeast, out into the ocean, more of this green area right here. Something like this as it's projecting. This is Tuesday night, late. Now it's Wednesday morning, as you can see here on the bottom. Wow, late Wednesday night. It's right there. It slightly hits North and South Carolina. It's right on the coast. The beaches are getting slammed by this hurricane. So the East Coast is getting somewhat impacted by Hurricane Erin, as I expected, as they keep trying to kind of hide it. We'll see if it makes even further landfall. But right now you could see that it's gonna hit all those beaches in North and South Carolina Wednesday night around 9 Eastern. Look at that. Whatever this is here, Virginia Beach and Kitty Hawk and Havelock, this this gets slammed. All of these islands, this lineup gets slammed by the hurricane. So people in this area really need to prepare. If they're on these islands, it's probably best to evacuate. That place might get really totally blown away or put underwater. It's going to bring massive waves. Let's see the waves. Yeah, 30 foot waves are going to slam this coastline. So there's definitely going to be some kind of impact from this hurricane, and this is just right now. This could change in the next day or two. We'll have a more accurate track of this massive hurricane, Erin. Let's see. So it moves up. This is Thursday afternoon. Let me see Thursday again. So late Wednesday night into Thursday morning, this moves up the East Coast, hits DC a little bit. Atlantic City gets slammed. Uh, looks like late Thursday night. Friday morning, they say it goes east, but we're yet to see that. I don't know if it's gonna go east the way they're showing. We're gonna find out in the next day or two. I see it making further landfall, hitting more of the east coast, going more inland. I mean, it changed in a big way when it came to the Carolina beaches. That it's gonna actually all all those coastal areas are going to get the massive waves and the wind from this hurricane. Absolutely massive Hurricane Erin. And then by late Friday morning, by Friday night, it's supposed to be well away from the East Coast and go more out to sea. We'll see what happens with this massive hurricane. So we definitely had some huge news tonight. This is definitely a shorter update, SITREP, and I'll definitely be watching Hurricane Erin closely. I expect in the next 24 to 48 hours we'll have a very accurate track of that hurricane, and we'll see what happens with the security guarantees, and if France and some other European countries, possibly the UK, are going to deploy troops into Ukraine for, as they call it, security guarantees, which could result in the highest escalation. We'll see what happens with that. I will be back soon with further updates and news. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. and love, light, and blessings to you all.